we talk about the future to create preferable futures. And then we work backwards. Don't we want preferable futures? Or do we want worst-case scenarios? And I have seen the future that's being made, that's changed the world. And I can tell you that I work a lot in your field, the medical field, but in every field you could imagine. I got a phone call from the Worldwide Cotton Growers Conference. And did you know that they have engineered cotton seeds now that use 50% less water and only a third of the fertilizer? And that's all because of synthetic biology. Or the Sydney Airport Corporation wanted to know what the airport of the future was going to look like. So I contacted my futurist friend at Airbus, and he told them that we're going to need slightly larger hangars so they could fit the giant 3D printers that they were going to use to print the next aircraft. And do you know, they laughed too. But the futurists from Airbus said, you're laughing, but don't you know, we're using 3D printers right now to print replacement parts for your GE jet engines that are keeping your jets in the sky right now. And you don't think in 25 years' time, we're not going to be able to print the entire jet? Then you're ridiculous. And all these organizations, they call me up and say, Craig, can you come along? Show us what the future is like. And I say, why? And they say, the briefing call goes something like this. It always turns to this phrase that goes something like this. Well, Craig, I'm the president or convener of this event, and I have to tell you, I've worked in this industry for 30 years now, 30 years. And in the last 3 years, I've seen more change in the last 3 years than I've seen in 30 years of my career. And I know you have felt it too. You felt it in the pit of your stomach. You felt it up here in your head. You felt like the world is accelerating past you. Have you felt that? You know, Alvin Toffler, that we just lost just a few weeks ago, described this in a great book in the late 1960s. It was called Future Shock, and I know you're feeling it. Turn to your learning partner. This is your learning partner. You have an odd number, so you're going to have to form a triumvirate of learning over here. Find your learning partner, turn to them, and ask them, what is the most disruptive thing that you've seen happening, in your life or in your industry in the last 3 years? You have 45 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. Ten seconds, just 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shh. And I bet, just shoot your hand up if your learning partner said something to do with technology. Was it something to do with technology? Because technology has changed everybody's life. And the law that technology follows is Moore's law. And it's exponential change. But the problem is that people don't think in this way. They think in a linear fashion. They think, oh, I'm going to be 1 year older this year. They don't think I'm 2, and now I'm 4, and now I'm 8, and then I'm 16, and now I'm 32. Boy, that would be depressing, wouldn't it? But this is how futurists think. This is how futurists think. They have exponential minds. They think that anything is possible, that we could create the world to be a more preferable place. Maybe you think this way as well. So I want to ask you a question. Go on a little time travel so you can see just how far we will go in the next 20 years. And be able to do this, we need to look back 20 years. Can you remember where you were 20 years ago? Just think about it. Where were you 20 years ago? I can tell you where I was. I was driving in the car. My my wife sitting next to me. We were underneath Sydney Harbor, in the Sydney Harbor Tunnel, and we received the call. The call was from Westmead IVF, and they told us, after 8 years of trying, that we had finally conceived. You'll see that I have a particular bias, and that is because technology has transformed my life and all of our lives. Just think about it. Just think about 20 years ago. Diana was still around, and she said she wasn't going to go quietly, and she certainly didn't. Do you remember what happened when we lost Diana? And it looks like there's going to be a special memorial built on the anniversary, 20-year anniversary, next year in 2017 at Kensington Palace. And a rogue trader, because of lack of controls, brought down a bank, and Yahoo looked like this. In fact, most web pages look like this: gray backgrounds and blue links and flashing text. Do you remember flashing text? I'm so glad we got rid of that with HTML 2.0. But just think about how far we've come in this time. At the end of 1995, just before 1996, or they would have had to rename the operating system, Windows 95 came out. It was the first time that you could get the operating system on a CD-ROM. You didn't need 36 floppy disks to install it. But it took a while because CD-ROMs weren't really fast at the time. Remember, they were only double speed, not 56 speed that we have now. And as it was installing the Windows operating system, the Rolling Stones played for you. Does anybody remember? Start Me Up, Start Me Up. And Brian Eno created the synthesizer bong that you still hear on your window machine. Bong, bong, you know the chime? Brian Eno created that. Just think, when it comes to live events, what's changed in the last 20 years? And it doesn't matter, even if you're Rihanna, you can yell at your audience and say, "Please stop streaming my concerts." And do you know what? 10,000 people walked out on her because she wasn't connected with her audience. For them, if they're not live streaming their life to their peers, it didn't even happen. Just think about that, how society has changed. And about this time, this genius wrote a story in Newsweek magazine on why the web won't be nirvana. And he went on to say that visionaries, he was talking about futurists in particular, see a future of telecommuting workers, interactive libraries, and multimedia classrooms. Of course, we don't have Khan Academy now, do we? He went on to say, they speak of electronic town hall meetings. Did you see when Hillary launched her campaign? She launched it in an electronic town hall meeting on YouTube. And he went on to say that this whole interactive multimedia, people won't buy things online. Are you crazy? People love salespeople. He wasn't a futurist. And the problem is that most people can only see when it's small, little changes. We call them weak signals. They think this isn't going to be a big thing, but as it doubles and doubles and doubles again, it becomes massive because it's exponential change. But in 1995, 96, it didn't look like much at all. We're about to add, we have about 3 billion minds on the internet right now. We're about to add 5 billion minds to this network in the next few years. How different will our world be when we have 8 billion people's minds connected to this network? Just think about it. Oh, and by the way, Newsweek sold for $1. Did you see that? Yeah. I guess they should have employed some futurists. Imagine 8 billion minds connected to this network. What will we create? So, what we like to do as futurists is try and assemble thought-provoking presentations, videos, infographics. We call it content marketing these days. And there was a YouTube video, a series, started by a futurist, an educational futurist by the name of Carl Fish, that went viral on YouTube. The series is called Did You Know? Put your hand up if you've seen the Did You Know video. You are kidding me! 500 million people have watched it. Now I'm obliged to play it so you guys can get up to speed. This is the latest one, and it's called Did You Know in 2028? And it covers the social, religious, technological, economic trends that will transform us between now and 2028. All predicted by my community, 25,000 futurists, members of the World Future Society. Maybe you'd like to join us. So here is your next learning activity. Go back to your learning partner. You're going to watch this video together, and then you're going to turn to your learning partner and say, what was the most surprising thing that you saw in the video? What was the most surprising thing you saw in the video after you watch it? Are you ready? You got your task? And here we go with Did You Know in 2028? Peril and opportunity, peril and opportunity. Turn to your learning partner and ask them what was the most surprising thing that they saw. You have 45 seconds. Your time begins now. Ten seconds, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And some people say, Craig, that couldn't possibly be true. How could you possibly use DNA to store data? It's called synthetic biology. My daughter is 19 years old, and she's in her second year of this degree, a degree that didn't even exist 3 years ago. And now companies like Google and like Microsoft are doing things like buying 10 million molecules of custom DNA designed by a San Francisco startup to store the entire contents, including every YouTube video, on DNA. And they say that they're doing this because it is the longest lasting storage medium in the history of the planet. If you'd like to know more about this, I would encourage you to join us. Be a futurist. Join us. There are many of your colleagues that are already with us, and we study the great works of our peers, like this one, the book that I recommend for every pessimist that I meet in my life. It's called Abundance. The Future is Better Than You Think, written by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. In 2012, when it came out, Bill Gates said on his blog that every modern executive in the world should read this book. Bill Clinton's foundation said this is required reading for every thoughtful person on the planet. It talks about the 8 exponential technologies that will change everything and the biggest problems in the world that we are facing, including healthcare, including energy, including water, and how these exponential technologies will solve those problems. I'll give you a summary of the 8 exponential technologies because 4 of them are directly related to the future of GP practices. Here are the 8. They are, number 1, infinite computing. Number 2, sensors and networks. Number 3, robotics. 3D printing. 4, 3D printing. 5, synthetic biology. 6, digital medicine. 7, nanomaterials. And 8, artificial intelligence. And to underpin all of this today is the biggest technological shift we have seen in the history of mankind since the invention of fire. What is it called? This technology that has lifted 1 billion people out of poverty and created brand new ways of living. What is this technology called? Anyone? Well, you probably have it in your pocket or your purse right now. It's called mobile technology. And we are massively mobile. Think about this. Never since the invention of fire have we had a technology that has transformed 97% of the world's population. 97%. And here in Australia, we've got more mobile internet devices per person than only Singapore is ahead of us. And if I asked you to do an inventory in your household or your practice, and you thought about the number of mobile phones that you have and tablets and Fitbits and other connected devices, including your cars and your televisions, if I asked you to do that right now, you'd have on average 4.3 devices. So just think about this. Turn to your learning partner, ask them, how many people in your household and how many devices? You have 10 seconds. Your time begins now. You've got 4 devices per person right here, yeah. Okay, we're going to do this auction style. You ready? Auction style. You ready to do auction style? Put your hand up if you have more than 5 devices in your household. More than 6, more than 7, more than 8, more than 9, more than 10. More 11 than 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. What's your number? What's your number? 22! Round of applause. So this is leading many organizations to have a mobile-first policy. Would you like to go with the rest of the world and have a mobile-first policy? This is impacting the most in the developing world. In the developed world, we just take it for granted. But we have people that are losing weight through an SMS coaching app that's being delivered to 100 million people in Africa right now, just via SMS. And it's better than sitting and talking to a doctor. Just having this app going, Craig, you haven't done your 10,000 steps today. Go find a friend and do your 10,000 steps. Some doctors, this is crazy talk. Crazy talk, some people say. Crazy talk. Some doctors now are prescribing apps instead of tablets. And I live in Sydney, and just down the road is Microsoft, and 5,000 Microsofties all stand up in unison because they all have their Fitbits on, and they all go for walking meetings, all 5,000 of them, and because of changes in legislation since July, their health insurer are giving them 30% off because they can get 80% of their employees to do 10,000 steps a day. Crazy talk. Do you think that you'll be training GPs in the future to prescribe apps instead of tablets? Some already are. Have a look at this.
In our next story here tonight, we're about to hear one of the world's top physicians say the smartphone may change his profession and personal medical care in ways none of us saw coming. His story tonight from Dr. Nancy Snyderman.
Why do we have people being treated like cattle herd? That's waste. And the billions of dollars that's being wasted each year for screening and the wrong drugs and the wrong everything. It's astounding. And we just can't go on like this.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks. Okay.
Dr. Eric Topol has long been one of the world's foremost cardiologists.
Hey, great to see you.
He has now become the foremost expert in the exploding field of wireless medicine. And this explosion, he says, is about to make our healthcare better and cheaper. Watch what he does with his cell phone.
And we'll just pop this iPhone into it like that.
He shows how simply his modified iPhone produces a cardiogram for a patient.
So you just put your fingers on that. There you go. And in a second, in the first second, then it stabilizes. There it is.
The device was approved by the FDA in December and is now sold to physicians for $199. Topol tells his patient he just saved a $100 technician's fee.
So are we close to using this to say I'm going to diagnose you and prescribe 4 or 5 apps instead of 4 or 5 medications?
Well, these days I'm actually prescribing a lot more apps than I am medications.
Crazy talk. Or is it? Have the actuarials spoken to the health funds and convinced them to lower their fees because they know it's better to get the Microsofties doing 10,000 steps than taking tablets? What do you think? So, think about this. Billions and billions and billions of people all have smart devices that can be connected to a hive mind. We can collect this information, monitor it, and change healthcare forever. This is already happening in some practices where they're looking at the technology that's being provided to them by, let's say, government suppliers, and they're saying, you know what? I can do a better health chart, a patient note, secure sharing with my colleagues. I can do it myself, and I can do it right now. I don't have to wait for you. Some are taking the future into their own hands. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's an entire team, 1,000 medicos like you guys, 1,000 of them working at Apple today. 1,000 people like you helping developers produce these incredible apps that are changing healthcare forever. And if you'd like to see a curated list of them, you can go to this link. Maybe you just want a quick snap a shot of the screen while it's up there. The link is bit.ly/apps-for-healthcare. It's a bit hard to find, so I thought I'd make a short. You don't want that list? No. Oh, okay. And the highest rated app, the number one highest rated app, has more star ratings than any other app in this area, is called, anyone? Would you like to have a guess? I'll give you a hint. The app is considered the Instagram for doctors. The Instagram for doctors. Anybody got the name of the app? Really? Sorry, you got it. Who said it? Put your hand up. Fantastic. Figure one. Round of applause. The Instagram for doctors, where if you're not quite sure what that rash is, you just take a picture, upload it to your colleagues in a secure fashion, and you can say, hey guys, what do you think this is? And now that they have over 1 million doctors on this private social network for sharing photos, and by the way, do you know what that thing is on the left? Is that part of the, coral, is that coral there? It looks like, oh, you know that's a urinary tract crystal. Would you like to have that inside you? Oh, no, thank you very much. Boy. And do you know what? People are saving lives because of this app. Have you heard about it? One person has. Have a look at this.
So I was working at a medical triage facility based out of Seattle, and what we do is provide telemedicine services to remote Alaskan fishing boats who are anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks out from land at any given time. I received a call from a 47-year-old gentleman who had a very interesting rash that nobody had ever seen before. Purple vesicles all over his body, but most concentrated on his lower legs. The medical doctors and providers were all stumped by the case. So I decided to upload it on Figure 1 to see if anybody recognized this particular rash. And shortly after I uploaded it, an internal medicine resident suggested that we run an HIV test, and it came back positive. I just thought this was a great case because through the help of a Figure 1 user, this gentleman was able to get what, in my opinion, is life-saving treatment.
There's another app, I'll let you find it in that collection, that allows you to create a secure document sharing platform that is encrypted through biometrics, through your fingerprint. And as a patient, I can elect who I want to share my medical data with. What happens is that your healthcare provider creates a care team, let's say within the hospital and external to the hospital and from pathology, and then you agree, how you're going to share with who your data. And they're doing this outside of government systems, over the top on their mobile devices, and winning millions of dollars of support for doing it. Just saying. And so one hospital, I was at a conference, and a CIO of a big hospital stood up, and he put up a spreadsheet, and he said, and so we decided to move from paper to iPads, and the return on investment was 9 days. And all around the world, people tried to pick apart his spreadsheet to prove that this couldn't possibly be the case, but you guys know it is. I can't believe the number of medical practices I go into, and they have an entire wall of paper and my private medical information running on a system. I went for a scan recently, a post-operative scan, and I looked over the counter, and there was all my information, my Medicare card, where I live, my phone number, all the scans I'd had, on a Windows 98 machine. I know for a fact that all that information is in Russia. I know for a fact. I speak at the biggest security conferences in the world. Trust me, I know. I'm never going back to that scanning center. I'm telling you. But the future of M-Health, this is what you want to look for if you're a medical futurist. The future of M-Health will blow your mind. Peter Diamandis runs something called the X Prize, and he created 10 years ago the Ansari Low Earth Orbit Prize, and this became the private space race industry that we have. And the latest X Prize is called the Tricorder. Do you remember what Bones and Spock had? And they could scan over the body, and it would read back all the vitals. And this is going to be happening on new chips that combine biology and electronics in a single chip. It's both biology and electronics. And this is a worldwide prize. It's a $10 million prize. Go Team Australia. We got knocked out on the first round. Guess who's in first place right now? It's those Singaporeans. They're always in first place. Let's see who's going to win it. Have a look at this. Here's Peter Diamandis explaining 3 years ago what this prize was all about.
And we're basically asking teams around the world to build a handheld mobile device that you can speak to. It's got AI on board. You can cough on it. It does the RNA, DNA analysis of the pathogens in your sputum. You can do a finger blood prick, and it can do your blood chemistry. And it's meant that a mom at 2 a.m. in the morning could literally diagnose herself or her kid, whether she's in Zimbabwe or the Bronx or whatever it might be. We announced it. In a year's time, we've had over 250 teams around the world from 33 countries who've entered this competition. And it's extraordinary. And we expect a winner in the next 3 years. So imagine, if you would, a future where all of us have healthcare literally in the palm of our hands. And it's not about solving things, but it's about being able to accurately diagnose you anywhere, anytime.
Who sees this as a preferable future? Who sees this as a non-preferable worst-case scenario? Who's too embarrassed to put their hand up? Turn to your learning partner and ask them, does your organization have a mobile-first policy? You have 15 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 minutes? 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you have a mobile-first policy, then one of the next 3 driving forces changing healthcare forever is sensors and networks. I've been to the future. In 5 years from now, every practice could be connected to every single patient 24/7, 365. And I was presenting at another medical conference last week to a group of medical business owners. And do you know what somebody said from the front row? Why in the world would we want to do that? And I said to him, well, you wouldn't be interested unless you're interested in saving lives and keeping people healthy. Saving lives. Really, you can't save lives through this? We have already proven that we've saved lives through this. Proven. Proof. Evidence-based healthcare. Proof. Yeah? Oh, you think? Really? Hundreds of devices that individuals have decided to strap to their bodies. Soon they will be ingesting. It will be inserted under their skin. This is already coming. I can show you proof. I've seen the future, and many people. So Arthur C. Clarke was one of my great mentors, and he said, if you listen to a futurist and believe everything that he says, he was probably wrong. And if you think what he says is ridiculous, he's probably right. I mean, just think about it. Think about the devices that we have now for $190 that can deliver an EKG to my doctor every 10 minutes if I chose to. I know. I have lots of friends that are doctors, and they're wondering how they will keep their golf day and still be able to do this. And it's called through automation and big data. And in the future, we will have devices all around our home that we have chosen. You have already chosen to do this in your homes, that will monitor our health when we step out of bed, when we brush our teeth, when we get in our car. It will go into a cloud. It will be monitored by algorithms. And if there is a worrying trend in some of your patients, you will get alerted when you want to. Or you could outsource it totally. So this is what the Mayo Clinic is doing right now with an app that they built with 3 students over a weekend. They offered a $10,000 prize to connect all of the patients that go to the Mayo Clinic to a little technology called the Health app on iOS. Do you think it was popular with patients? Yeah. Listen to the round of applause.
Now, we're also working with the Mayo Clinic, innovators in healthcare. And with their integration with HealthKit, they're going to be able, that when a patient takes, let's say, a blood pressure reading, HealthKit automatically notifies their app, and their app is automatically able to check whether that reading is within that patient's personalized healthcare parameters and thresholds. And if not, it can contact the hospital proactively, notify a doctor, and that doctor can reach back to that patient, providing more timely care. Now,
kind of popular. What about compliance? Well, we have new pills with little chips in that get dissolved in your bloodstream, notify your smartwatch, and tells you whether you've taken your tablets or not. And so you can have it. You think I'm making this up, right? Trust me, all the pharmaceutical firms are all my clients. They love this future. Think about it. Being able to monitor all of your patients around compliance easily in an automated fashion. Think about it. There are even startups now that have gone to the big health insurers and said, could we actually give cash back to health fund members if they take on active lifestyles? And they said, sure, why don't we give them a $25 gift card if they do their first 30 days of 10,000 steps? Millions and millions of patients are starting to go on this journey. Scanners and sensors are getting cheaper, even faster than Moore's Law. It used to be that if you wanted to buy an ultrasound, it looked like a giant cart and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the new Philips one, you don't even buy. You rent it for $199 a month. And why would you have a stethoscope around your neck when you can 3D image somebody's heart and their blood flow for $199 a month? I mean, think about it. And DARPA, the Defense and Research Group that created the internet and self-driving cars through competitions, just awarded through their competition this under-the-skin sensor that could eliminate most blood tests in the future. They got $7.5 million for inventing this. Have you seen this? Just announced a few days ago. Have a look.
What if there was a simpler way of knowing how you're doing? How you're really doing?
A way to end the monotony of this. And enjoy the freedom of this.
Take the difficulties and the hassles that you've always known, and replace them with the comfort and the warmth of home.
Lumi is transformative science that pairs smart technology on the outside with advanced chemistry on the inside. A single Lumi microsensing fiber provides months of actionable medical-grade data on your body's key biochemistry. Anytime, anywhere, in a continuous data stream, making information immediate.
Belle, you're hypoxic.
Allowing the right decisions to be made at the right time.
Stop and suck some wind. You're only 2 clicks away.
So whether you're in the field,
everything looks good, Mr. Daniels. You can be discharged today.
Returning home.
Or training to be a better you.
Lumi answers the most important question. How am I?
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 How are you?
Some health leaders around the world, and I work all around the world, are saying that sensors and networks are going to be the only way that we can afford health care in the future. Discuss this with a learning partner. You have 1 minute. What does sensors and networks mean to your organization in the future? Your time begins now. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. The last exponential trend that I want to share with you is machine learning. As we've got all these sensors and networks connecting 10 billion people's biometric information up to the cloud, you're still going to want your golf day. So how are you going to do this? It's all through what we used to call AI, but that turned out to be really creepy, so we call it machine learning now. And if you attended the last Google conference like I did, 8 million people attended, in fact, they said machine learning 45 times. It's also known as artificial intelligence, deep learning, or computer cognition. And it all started just a few years ago. And I've been to the future, and 10 years from now, every medical practitioner could have Jarvis from Iron Man in their pocket. And you think I'm making this up, but I have friends that are doctors that already have it on their iPad today. Machine learning really took off when this guy who never lost a game of Jeopardy, Al Jeffries, lost to the computer, Watson. And when he lost, he wrote at the bottom of his answer, "I, for one, welcome our new computer overlords." Because he knew from then on, humans could not win at game shows. And the next year, you know what happened? Watson went to medical school and became the smartest year 2 medical student, the smartest year 3 medical student in the history of medical students. According to the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, it is the #1 diagnostician for cancer in the world now. What doctor wouldn't want to have that in their pocket? They say it's proven we have saved lives because of Watson already. Evidence-based medicine. And everybody's talking about this, including the president of the AMA, New South Wales chapter, who has young doctors who have seen this. They accept this. They know, for instance, that they will never need to get a driver's license because we can just take an Uber today and eventually Uber will be driverless Uber, right? You're nodding your head. You just accept this. I know, it's fantastic. And I imagine that you could pull out your electronic device and consult 600,000 medical documents in a second.
Dr. Mark Norton, a clinical oncologist, is preparing to see a patient. He logs into the electronic medical record, and instead of spending time trying to find relevant information, he uses the IBM Watson Oncology Diagnosis and Treatment Advisor. He pushes the Ask Watson button, and Watson analyzes the patient data against tens of thousands of documents from its vast body of medical literature.
Yeah, can you see the numbers? Can you do that in a couple seconds? So, I run into doctors all the time and they say to me, they have two reactions to this. They say, Craig, I'm not far away from retirement. I think I can make it there before this will impact me. And others who say, fantastic, I want to be a superhero doctor, empowered by Jarvis, or Watson, or DeepMind, who won the game of Go. We thought this was going to take 10 years, and the next customer to call after DeepMind, Google's DeepMind, won the game of Go, was the National Health System in the UK. You think I'm making this up? I've been to the future. The future has already happened. I have friends that are doctors who have saved lives because of social learning app called Figure One and Watson in the hospital. I have an absolute belief that this will be the future in 10 years' time because I've seen it already today. Is this your preferable future, or could it be something else? I won't have time today, I've run out of time, to talk to you about in 20 years' time when nanotechnology will change all of our cells in our bodies. But don't worry, I have electronic office hours. I'm sure you do. I mean, you went online and booked your own flight here today. Like if you had to fly in, did you book your flight online? Did you book your hotel online? Did you book your conference registration online? Can I book appointments with you online? I have electronic office hours, and I would love to share with you the other 479 slides that I cannot share with you today. So the organizers will be sending you out a link, and you have access to my electronic office hours free of charge for the next 12 months. I'm not going to try and upsell you. It's not a premium product. Ask me about this in my next session. This will change all of us. This will change all of us. If you want to get started on your homework, you could read this book if you'd like to get started on your homework. If you want to think like a futurist, you want to think like us, read Homo Evolutus by Juan Enriquez, or watch his 20-minute TED Talk, and then we can talk about it at office hours. Guys, I've seen the future. You know it's coming. There's no avoiding it. You can either do two things, hope you get to retirement quick, or be part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. That was fabulous. We all need to think about this stuff. It's challenging, but we are training the clinicians of the future.
I don't know about you, Doctor, but I can tell the emotional intensity in this room just went up like, 20 decibels or whatever that is. But anyway, I can feel the terrifiedness, the fear, the, oh God, what am I doing? What does that mean for my job? All of these things. So we've got 5 minutes. So we'd love to ask some key questions. So rather than maybe having a rant about your feelings, see if we can kind of get a specific question that could be answered by our specialist here today. So open the floor.
Thanks, Craig. It's been a very thought-provoking hour. What mistakes do futurists make, other than just predictions that don't go right? What mistakes can we make in terms of going forward?
We do make mistakes. As a professional body, we log not what we call predictions, but forecasts, and we actually get reviewed every 10 years to see how accurate we are. At the top of our leaderboard is a futurist that is now running Google, by the a futurist by the name of Ray Kurzweil. He's at 86%. Our entire peak body's at 68% of being right with their predictions. Here's the problem that most futurists have. We are very conservative with our forecasts, and so we miss the time frames. Plus or minus a few years doesn't really matter. It's about the idea of asking the questions to create the preferable future. There is a least preferable future for nanotechnology, and nobody's talking about that either. We need to talk about the good and the bad of all of this, and nobody's really talking about it. A handful of people that I can have a discussion with that know about this. And we need to elevate the conversation because it's already changing all of us.
Okay, we've got one over here.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for that. The 2028 visionary slide series that you put up had obesity and then depression as the two biggest illnesses we'll be dealing with.
Yes.
Do you not think this information overload, the devices, the constant monitoring, the sensors actually directly feeds into that increasing depression and anxiety?
Yes, it absolutely, positively does not. So there was a conference here about 9 months ago. It was called the Neuro Safety Conference. It was PhDs in how the brain works. And we've had these long studies. You know about them. They're the healthcare worker studies that have been going on for decades. And you know what we've discovered? It wasn't what you eat. It wasn't the technology that you used. It wasn't your ethnic background. We were trying to figure out why we had these increasing rates of not only depression and obesity, but breast disease and heart disease as well. And you know what we discovered that it was? You'll never guess. Artificial light. It's all the shift workers that are working in hospitals outside of the normal human rhythms, and it's artificial light. And so all the hospitals in America and all the Virgin flights that you take now have LEDs that change color, and on your iOS devices, they've taken this latest evidence-based learning and applied it so you can have night shift. And we found that we can stop truckies from crashing their truck and stop people from gaining weight just by changing the color of light during their day. And if you'd like to know more about this, there's a documentary online, and it's called, you ready to write this down? Lights Out, exclamation mark. Lights Out, exclamation mark. As we can see all around the globe, whenever we introduce artificial light, obesity shoots up, heart disease, depression. It's artificial light. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? But then again, 20 years ago, you were a quack if you thought that viruses cause cancer. And of course, we know now because we've sequenced the viruses and us. We know that there are viruses that cause cancer. But 20 years ago, if you believed this, you were a quack.
Craig, we've got time for one more at the front here.
Yes.
Hi. I don't dispute what you're saying. However, you seem to
have a bias?
Devalue what our job is.
Oh, really?
Because, for example, I had a little old lady yesterday, 85.
Yes.
And I really didn't do anything with her with all this. All I did was listen.
Yes.
She was distressed that her husband had to go into a nursing home.
Yes.
And collecting all this data
Yes.
does not make our present job any less valuable.
No.
And collecting all this extra data is not going to improve how I help that little old lady.
Yes, and I would agree. Yeah, but I didn't come here to help you with what you already know. I came to reveal the unseen of what you don't know, because I already know that you're good at that. Why would I help you be better at that? I need to help you with what you're not good at. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much, Craig.
Thanks for that. That's all the time we've got.